Have you heard? It's truck news!
And the word is now!
The Truck Show. We're gonna show you what we know. We're gonna answer what the truck, 'cause truck rhymes with the Truck Show. We have the lifted, we have the lowered, and everything in between. We'll talk about trucks that run on diesel, electricity, and on gasoline. The Truck Show, the Truck Show, the Truck Show. Whoa, whoa.
It's the Truck Show with your host, Holman.
This episode of the Truck Show podcast, Have You Heard?, is proudly presented by Nissan. Nissan has the right truck or family hauler for your needs, along with legendary Nissan durability. Test drive a Frontier or Armada at a local dealer today, or point your browser to nissanusa.com, where you can use the build and price tool to configure a Nissan that fits your lifestyle. And if you love your truck as much as we love ours, then why not give it the best lubricants money can buy? A pioneer in synthetic lubricants for more than 50 years, AMSOIL products deliver wear protection, engine cleanliness, and fuel efficiency that conventional oils simply can't match. Whether you need oil, lube, grease, transmission fluid, car care products, filters, or even complete oil change kits, you'll find everything you need at AMSOIL.com. If you're a truck guy, then you're definitely a knife guy, and you should have a Kershaw in your pocket. All Kershaw knives, regardless of price point, come with a limited lifetime warranty and lifetime sharpening. Repair parts such as pocket clips, screws, and springs are readily available through the website, and the Kershaw lineup has everything from EDC knives that can be used and abused for under $50 all the way up to high-end collectibles. Thanks to our generous partnership with Kershaw Knives, Truck Show podcast listeners can get 40% off MSRP and free shipping over $50 by using the code 25TSP40 at checkout on the Kershaw.kaiusa.com website. When it comes to amazing adventure content, how-tos, and great storytelling, only one brand is doing it right in the print magazine space, and that's OVR Outdoor Vehicle Recreation. OVR is about getting out there in our vehicles to explore and discover the world around us. Get complimentary access for a year to the digital library or a discount on your print subscription today at ovrmag.com. Use the promotional code at Truck Show Podcast. Please support the Truck Show Podcast today by patronizing our sponsors. Have you heard?
No, wait.
One of my favorite press releases of the week came from our friends over at SEMA, the Specialty Equipment Market Association. And the press release is entitled, SEMA Urges Immediate Congressional Action on Advanced Clean Cars 2. Lawmakers have a unique opportunity to make things right with the American people, use their CRA powers to halt EV mandates. And SEMA goes on to say, with the Environmental Protection Agency transmitting to Congress the Clean Air Act waiver granted to California for the state's Advanced Clean Cars 2 regulation on Friday, February 14th, the Specialty Equipment Market Association, on behalf of its members and the nation's community of automotive enthusiasts, urges federal lawmakers to swiftly strike down the waiver using their authority under the Congressional Review Act. SEMA thanks President Donald Trump and the EPA for ensuring this policy is given the scrutiny and consideration it is owed due to its broad applicability to the nation's economy and individual freedoms. And the president of SEMA, Mike Spagnola, friend of the show, says, during the November election, voters resoundingly rejected candidates who support electric vehicle mandates only to see their voices suppressed in the final days of the Biden administration when a waiver was granted to California to prop up its radical, economy-killing Advanced Clean Car 2 policy. Today, Congress has the opportunity to make it right by the American people. SEMA calls on lawmakers from both sides of the aisle to use their Congressional Review Act authorities to stand up for American ingenuity and innovation, for the power of the free market, and for the individual freedoms of people to choose which vehicle is right for their lifestyle and needs. Congress must reject the Advanced Clean Cars 2 waiver and stop California's regulatory land grab in its tracks. SEMA also says they are not anti-EV, rather they champion a technology-neutral approach that fosters innovation and ingenuity. The association will continue efforts to preserve Americans' rights to vehicle choice and the automotive aftermarket industry's ability to design, manufacture, and bring to market products that help solve the emissions challenge. So, bottom line is, in the waning days of the Biden administration, they granted California the waiver so that they could do their own emissions rules, and SEMA is pushing for the new administration to revoke that and make sure that ICE engines and choice remain part of the fabric of America, which I completely agree. Like our friends over at SEMA, we are technology neutral here at the Truck Show Podcast. I just don't think you should be pushed into something that you don't want, that makes things more expensive and mandated by people who don't understand the technology, who don't understand what is realistic in the world, and kills our industry and our choices and our freedoms and really freedom of movement and all the things that come with that. So I applaud SEMA for putting that out. And I hear that there is some stuff happening in the next few weeks that we will be reporting on here at the Truck Show Podcast. So stay tuned. There's more to come from this story. So several news outlets are reporting that Ford is pushing back the next generation F-150 by about a year. So the 15th generation, which is codenamed P736, will not hit the assembly line in 2027. Instead, it will be sometime in the middle of 2028, along with the next generation F-150 Lightning, which is known as Project T3. That's also been rescheduled for the later half of 2027. And the third truck, the midsize EV that is about the size of a Ranger, but will, quote-unquote, deliver an incredible package in consumer technology for a segment we know well, according to Jim Farley last October, is slated to go on sale sometime in 2027. So it sounds like Ford is kind of shuffling the deck a little bit. And the current generation, which has been around since 2020, is still carrying the best-selling truck in America title for Ford for now 48 consecutive years. And in 2024, shipments grew by 2% to 765,649 units. That's all of F-Series. Doesn't say what the F-150 breakdown is. However, don't know too much about the next generation F-150, but Ford is making sure that the right truck comes to market because they definitely do not want to lose that title. I don't know if this is going to be a surprise to anybody, but Nikola has officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The Arizona-based startup, you might recall, used the Truck Show Podcast to help promote its IPO, and two knuckleheads from Southern California took a road trip to Arizona to meet with founder and quote-unquote visionary Trevor Milton, who showed us the inside of Nikola and all the projects going on so that we could report to the world that it wasn't just vaporware. An awfully interesting experience. But following our show, a short-selling firm, Hindenburg Research, published a report accusing the founder and then CEO Trevor Milton of defrauding investors, and then a Securities and Exchange Commission investigation ensued. A jury convicted Milton of several charges, including securities and wire fraud in October of 22, and he was sentenced to 4 years in prison. In December of 23, he's out on bail as of late last year because he's appealing his case. Nikola tried to get together with GM. There was something with the Badger pickup truck with being spun off with Dave Sparks, and it'd be interesting to see, does Milton take his gazillion dollars that he walked away with and try and buy up the pieces of his company and do like a Steve Jobs return to leading that? Does Dave Sparks make an appearance? Does he come back? Do Trevor and Dave get together and the Badger ends up becoming a thing? Who knows? But at this point, Nikola has gone the way of Lordstown Motors, Fisker, the Dodo Bird, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't think the story's quite over for those guys, and I think it's funny that the Truck Show Podcast played some tiny little weird part in the Nikola saga and history. Go figure.
A weird little show.
That's right, Mike. It is a weird little show. All right, so here's a fun little trick for you Chevy owners. If you are a Chevy truck owner, you've got a V8 and the 10-speed automatic, and you don't like dynamic fuel management, which is the cylinder deactivation that pretty much nobody likes, there's actually a trick to disable it. So if your truck was equipped with paddle shifters, I believe that includes the 1500, the Suburban, and the Tahoes, as well as the GMC versions of those, and you want to disable it, but you aren't ready to drop in a DFM module from one of the aftermarket companies that exists out there. We won't tell you who. There's this little known trick where if you use the paddle shifters to shift the vehicle's transmission into ninth gear, it's the only gear where the engine control module disables DFM in a stock truck. Being in ninth gear also disables automatic start-stop. If you go 1 through 8 or 10, DFM and auto start-stop are active. So I don't have one of those to test right now. I would love to. If you own that truck, why don't you try it out and report back to the Truck Show Podcast And you can email us truckshowpodcast@gmail.com or on the 5-star hotline, 657-205-6105. But throw it in 9 and drive around. Tell us what that's like. And if it works, you're welcome. So for those of you out there who are Rivian fans, you count me as one of them. I think it's a very, very fine vehicle, especially the pickup truck. They are releasing their very first limited edition, and it's called the California Dune Edition, and it gets some cool looks to it. Basically, it's a R1T or an R1S with the adventure package, but you also get a bunch of different accessories like all-new 20-inch wheels, a spare tire with reinforced underbody skid plates, and then you get a pair of black Max-Trax recovery boards, a pair of dark crossbars, and if you have an R1T pickup truck, you also get a powered tonneau cover. You could choose from 2-wheel designs. You can either get the dark finish or the California Dune finish, and no matter what, you get the California Dune exterior paint, which is kind of a tan, sandy color, which to me looks pretty cool. It also has a all-new adventure interior with sandstone-colored base and Black Mountain accents on the top half, so it looks pretty neat. And this new package will be applied over the tri-motor version of the R1S and R1T. So that means one motor in the front, 2 in the back, puts out 850 horsepower and 1,103 pound-feet of torque. So 0 to 60 is under 3 seconds. And even with the adventure package, you still get 329 miles on a full charge according to the EPA, which is really, really good. So the California Dune Edition R1T starts at a cool $99,900, excluding shipping, while the R1S SUV is $105,900. But what's really interesting is the limited edition model costs the same as the regular tri-motor without the all-terrain package, which costs $3,950 additional. So it's basically cheaper, cooler, and you get the Max-Trax boards, the cool wheels, and the crossbars. So you know what? I'm all about it. I'm here for it. Good job, Rivian. Another special edition, this time one's from Jeep. There's a new limited edition of the Wrangler 4xe that's called the Backcountry. So think of it as a Rubicon Light, but with more street-oriented wheel and tires. And they're only going to make 5,800 units available for North America. And according to Bob Broderoff, the Jeep CEO, he says that the 2025 Jeep Wrangler 4xe Backcountry is designed for customers who want to head off-road with the help from built-in adventure guides and a front trail cam. Basically, the Backcountry is kind of a more upscale and ruggedized version of the Sahara. So with the Backcountry, you get front and rear steel bumpers, rock rails, the Mopar single-loop grill guard, which is kind of like a little short stinger kind of bolt on to the steel bumper. General Grabber AT tires in the 275/55/20. The wheels are 20/8. The front trail cam and the trailer tow package. So a lot of upgrades, and it kind of reminds me of sort of like the Jeep G-Wagon kind of thing, right? You know it's capable, but it's got a little bit more style for the street or the ski slopes and not really meant for Moab. The Wrangler Backcountry comes in 7 colors, which include bright white, 41, Anvil, Black, Firecracker Red, Granite Crystal, and Hydro Blue. And also their press photos have this really cool blue interior I hadn't seen before. And you can also opt for the Sky One Touch Power Top. Pricing starts at $64,290 plus $1,895 destination fee in the U.S. And for our friends in Canada, $73,895 excluding their additional fees. So limited production. Cool looking. Oh, it's also got these cool like topographics on it as well. And it's just a really nice looking Jeep. So good job. And if you guys want something different or a little bit more urban or maybe the wife's car, might be a good choice. So it looks like the Ram, Cummins, Stellantis legal woes on emissions aren't quite over. Even though there was a massive settlement between Cummins and the Department of Justice on the emissions violations, Stellantis is now part of a class action lawsuit against it that could lead to more financial troubles. Federal jury recently ruled that a class action with key claims against Stellantis and Cummins can proceed, and that's great for lawyers and probably not great for everybody else. The lawsuit basically says that the 2,500 and 3,500 vehicles with the 6.7 Cummins were equipped with defeat devices. Approximately 630,000 trucks are believed to be affected. But they're saying that Ram and Cummins knowingly represented the truck's emissions and performance. But if you as customers had known what the quote-unquote true pollution levels were, you never would have purchased that vehicle, which we all know is complete and total BS. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm sure you'll get something in the mail if you're a Ram Cummins owner, where it'll basically invite you to the class action, and you'll get your check when it's all said and done. If they're found guilty, and you'll get your $100, while the lawyers make about $1 million. For any of you interested in finding out more about the Jeep Recon, which was teased in the Super Bowl ad with Harrison Ford, which, by the way, was really awesome. It's now on the website, and Jeep's got a bunch of info on it, and you can see a bunch of pictures and all that kind of stuff. So head over to Jeep.com, and you can get some more details on the Recon and ultimately what the production version will look like. On the recent Motor Trend podcast, Inevitable, which looks at EVs, they had Scout CEO Scott Keogh on, and he shared a few little information nuggets on the upcoming Scout. They talk about the E-Rev as being the middle ground for people who don't want to fully commit to EV or still want to have the flexibility of gas. The E-Rev versions, or the Harvesters, what they're branding them as, will be equipped with smaller batteries, about half the output of the battery electric version, so 60 to 70 kilowatt hours versus 120 to 130 kilowatt hours. The BEVs will get about 350 miles range. The E-Revs are still saying 500 with the gas range extender, and that gas engine will likely come from Volkswagen. The other thing is they're talking about 0 to 60 is estimated to be 3.5 seconds in the BEV, 4.5 seconds in the E-Rev. Both vehicles will have a 2,000-pound payload and similar towing, but they talked about having the placement of the range-extending engine behind the rear axle, and that they're trying to come up with some creative approaches to managing some of the challenges of putting an engine in the back, such as airflow. And they also talk about how the two models will have different battery chemistries, so power output will be impacted, and he goes on to suggest that E-Rev will have a more cost-effective battery, which is why it might not have as good of performance as the BEV, but when you're including two powertrains, obviously you got to compromise somewhere to make the vehicle affordable. So says that early reservations are showing that there's strong interest in the range extender model, saying over 50% of pre-orders were for the E-Rev, and that 70% have opted for the SUV, the Traveler, over the Terra pickup, which I'm kind of surprised at. I would have thought the mix would have been a little bit more even. He said that Scout's committed to domestic manufacturing, and that 85% of the company's supply chain will be right here in the U.S., and that Scouts will be eligible for the $7,500 federal EV tax credit if it's still around by the time they come out. So anyway, a few little nuggets there. So head on over to the Inevitable podcast, and you can hear more from Scott Keogh from Scout Motors. And for you GM fans out there who are maybe kind of irked that Ford's been pushing that sweet Coyote-powered supercharged F-150, company SVE recently launched the 2025 Sport Edition GMC Sierra, and Specialty Vehicle Engineering says you can get up to 1,000 horsepower in that. So this one's a sport truck. It's lowered, and it's really, from a styling standpoint, kind of badass looking. It's available in crew cab or double cab, short bed, standard bed, and you can get it in either two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive, and it's only available through GM dealerships. There are 3 power levels, including the 700 horsepower version of the 5.3-liter L84, an 800 horsepower version of the L87 6.2, and a 1,000 horsepower version with a 6.8-liter V8, which we assume is probably a bored-out L87. All of the above featured blueprinted aluminum block, race-quality computer, balanced rotating assembly, forged twisted steel crankshaft, forged aluminum pistons, upgraded cylinder heads, and an SVE supercharger system, as well as a custom stainless steel exhaust. And there is 91 and 93 octane tunings across the board, and you'll be able to get upgraded wheels like 22s, Nitto performance tires, Brembo brakes, all sorts of other good stuff. So pricing hasn't been announced yet, and if you want one, only 50 of each power level are going to be made available. So if you want to find out more, head over to specialtyvehicleengineering.com and check out that new GMC pickup. It's pretty cool. All right, one last kind of interesting story here. Apparently, Ford says if your F-Series truck is stolen, not the taillights, the truck, they will cut you a check. Say what?
Right.
No, it's true. Ford says that they're willing to cut you a check of up to $2,500 to cover your insurance deductible if your vehicle hasn't been recovered or if it's damaged. But there are caveats. The offer is available on gas and hybrid 24 and 25 F-115 Super Duties in 40 states. They're slowly rolling out what's called the Ford Security Package, which if you sign up for it, you have to have a connectivity plan. You get a 1-year free trial of the Ford security package, and then it's $7.99 a month. The security package includes a start inhibit features, so you can lock down your vehicle, preventing anyone from starting it, even if they have a key. That feature is accessible through the Ford Pass app. You can also get a one-time 12-digit code that you can type into the infotainment screen to deactivate the lockdown. According to Detroit Free Press, Ford says that they plan on expanding the security package to other vehicles, and they may expand the insurance deductible reimbursement to more states based on the insurance rules and things like that. So Ford is also offering a 24/7 helpline to assist owners in connecting with law enforcement, and then owners can receive notifications of theft or tampering through the app. It's nice to see a manufacturer like Ford taking these theft concerns seriously. And Stellantis, it's your move. And in other news, kind of funny story while we're talking about things being stolen. My Jeep hasn't been able to make that sound in a while. And as most of you guys know, I bent the front axle pretty severely on a off-road trip. And it's been sitting in my driveway because I've been mad at it for about, almost 3 months now. And I had a friend ask the other day, man, they're stealing 392s. Aren't you afraid of it getting stolen? I'm like, battery's been dead for like 6 weeks. So, yeah. But I wanted to quickly shout out my friends over at Optima Battery and Clarios for hooking me up with a brand new battery so I could get that thing fired back up. It's heading off to Rock Tech in La Habra. My friend Chris is going to help me get the new axle installed, and we'll get the 392 Adventure Jeep back on the road. I'm super excited because I got some trips ahead of me, and it's going to be a busy, busy spring. But all I can say for now is life is good.
The Truck Show Podcast is a production of Truck Famous LLC. This podcast was created by Sean Holman and Jay Tillis, hosted by Sean Holman, and uses production elements by DJ Omar Khan and Jay Tillis. If you like what you've heard, please open your Apple Podcast or Spotify app and leave us a 5-star review. And if you're a fan, there's no better way to support the show than by sharing it and patronizing our sponsors. Some vehicles may have been harmed during the making of this podcast.
Yes.